Good afternoon. Thank you very much. So, my name is Kyle Faber. I'm with Limelight Networks here in APAC. I've been with Limelight Networks for about 15 years through watching the CDN space grow and watching the way that the gaming market and the CDN market have been coming together. I started my career as a network engineer, and so it's nice to see the interests of gaming and my career in CDN coming together very nicely. So today, what I'm interested in talking to you about is how you can leverage Limelight's cloud infrastructure to present a successful global gaming experience to your users with an understanding of the different challenges that are faced by a game developer or a game distributor, and how staying connected with your gamers and how you can overcome those challenges by using cloud infrastructure. I've divided the presentation today into three sort of separate categories that need to be top of mind when you are when you're designing a strategy for development and distribution. Those are the digital distribution of the file or the assets themselves. So that's perhaps the initial game download or marketing materials associated with the game or how you can get that to your users. Connecting the gamers once they're a part of your audience. So whether that's social gaming connectivity, connecting personalized data or dynamic data that's designed for those users in the system. And then finally, making sure that your entire infrastructure is protected, both the infrastructure that Limelight can host for you as well as the infrastructure that you continue to host for yourselves. So going back to digital distribution, what we have are statistics about the abandonment rate or the engagement rate for particular users. And these map very well whether you're talking about a web page or talking about the conversion rate for a download. And what that is that the specific time that it takes a user to become engaged with a website or to become engaged with a piece of content has a direct relationship to the conversion for how long that user intends to stick around to have your experience, or how long, whether or not the user clicks through to become a downloading gamer. So you need to have an infrastructure that can support a very fast response to these users and make sure that they get what they're looking for immediately. Additionally, we can see that this abandonment rate is not specifically designed for desktop gamers or the folks who are having some type of a PC experience. You can see the abandonment rate in the lower line, which is the iPhone Safari browser. Tracks very, very well by the time we get to 4 seconds. All users, no matter they're on a tablet or on a mobile device, in a VR experience or on a traditional desktop experience, they all have the same expectation that whatever experience that they're looking for is going to have a very quick response and is going to be available to them essentially instantaneously when they click on that. Slower pages equal higher abandonment. They reduce the revenue or they damage your brand while increasing the costs of serving those connections longer for that delivery infrastructure. So it's fine to understand that you need to build an infrastructure that can support the gamers that you have coming, but how many gamers are going to be coming and how long is it going to be a problem for you? What I have here is a graph of a 2-year span. So this is 2015 and 2016 for one of my customers. How many of you can guess where they had their major release? During 2015, they had a 350 gigabit per second spike that lasted approximately 3 weeks on their infrastructure. And obviously, they never attained the needs of that delivery infrastructure again. And for the remainder of the 2 years, never spiked above 50 gigabits per second for any of the delivery needs that they needed. So the activity that you see is a combination of additional users who are downloading the content and users who are connecting and communicating through the social engagement with their platform. So after you have the initial download of the game, the demands on the infrastructure change completely, and they become an opportunity for you to engage with those users, to have a social experience with those users, to collect user-generated content from those users, but never do you have the same demands on your infrastructure that you do during initial launch and distribution. So we can move forward and zoom in on this graph to just 2016, and you can see that while they had some downloadable content, DLC, that generated some additional spikes in their infrastructure, taking them almost to 40 or above 40 gigabits per second. They spend the majority, and again, this is a 12-month graph, they spend the majority of this time with less than 10 gigabits per second of infrastructure demands for download and for interaction with those users. So while they may be able to handle an entire year's worth of infrastructure demands, they never would have had the audience to generate this 2016 traffic without being able to offer a delivery opportunity during 2015, during the initial launch of their game. So I'm sure you can guess that they were successful in delivering this, and how were they able to do that? So let's take a look at Limelight at a glance. So Limelight operates the world's largest media-grade private backbone, which is solely dedicated to the delivery of content worldwide. We have over 21 terabits per second of egress capacity from the edge of that network into the ISPs of the world, and those ISPs represent the 800 directly connected unique networks here. We are constantly negotiating and constantly creating new connections with the eyeball networks and delivery networks of the world that allow us to deliver instantaneous, congestion-free access to all of the audiences of the world. We offer greater than a 98% industry-leading cache hit ratio. So what this is it describes the ratio between the traffic that Limelight can serve for you and the total amount of traffic that you have to account for on your infrastructure. So when your server teams need to account for 100 million users, when you have over 98% of that traffic being offloaded, you're dealing with a scant few million requests per second, or however the audience size translates directly into its interaction with your infrastructure. Limelight's global purge, I'll skip ahead here to the global purge section. Limelight's global purge, which is the removal of content from the cache of our network so that it can be updated, refreshed, changed, some calamity happens or some publishing schedule happens, is a complete life cycle. We offer you the opportunity to remove millions of objects from our cache in just 5 seconds, but also to give you a complete report about exactly what was deleted, where it was deleted from, and how long it took to delete. It's the only purge, we believe, in the industry that offers the complete life cycle of an object. The reason why I wanted to circle around here is that we believe that we offer the world's largest SSL-enabled CDN. All 21 terabits of traffic that can be served from this network can be served over HTTPS and SSL connectivity using your custom certificates. So why is that important to gaming? 3 years ago, it wasn't. SSL is for banks, it's for secure data, maybe it's for my password. The nature of the internet and the nature of the connectivity being driven by the distribution channels is requiring HTTPS. Facebook now requires 100% of the content that's served through the newsfeed to be HTTPS. Google has stated that they significantly increase the page rank of pages that are delivered 100% via HTTPS or SSL. And if you're delivering games or game content via iOS and the Apple App Store, they're requiring in a phased approach that eventually, and they're signaling that eventually 100% of the content that's being downloaded into an iOS App Store app needs to be downloaded into that app via HTTPS. So regardless of the content that you're serving, you now need to have the opportunity to deliver that content via HTTPS, and Limelight's CDN can allow you a seamless and instantaneous transition from HTTP to HTTPS without essentially changing anything on your side. We can still have those conversations with your origin infrastructure via HTTP. So it really is just a turnkey enablement of a very important feature for the future of distribution. You can see at the bottom, this is the easy part. Limelight's brand is trusted by 4 out of 5 top media companies, 5 out of 8 top technology companies, and 3 out of 5 top gaming companies. So what does this giant private network look like? Each one of those metropolitan locations represents one of the 40+ global metropolitan locations that we name through our map. And they're all connected via the blue lines with a Limelight-controlled private backbone that is dedicated solely to the distribution of content for our users on our network. The network is baselined at 10 gigabits per second through at least every single one of those corridors. And major corridors represent more than 200 gigabits per second of dedicated Limelight capacity for moving content between locations. This means faster cache fill, faster ability to direct dynamic content, so content that I could never cache for you because it's personalized to an individual user, or it represents an API call or some other type of content that a traditional CDN would never have the opportunity to accelerate, can use that congestion-free, low latency, dedicated backbone to communicate directly from the gamer to your origin across that channel. And on a global average, the Limelight network can increase the speed of dynamic, personalized, non-cacheable content faster than a direct connection to the origin alone. The Limelight solution for gaming relies on the opportunity to leverage our cloud storage environment. So Limelight's cloud storage service operates in most of those 40 locations, and it gives you the opportunity, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the presentation, to leverage our automatic replication on a policy basis to keep your content in individual regions, in individual locations, to make it quickly available into the CDN and for the download of your end users. So you can see here that it fits into a complete infrastructure where the video files themselves can be stored with your infrastructure, can be stored with Limelight's cloud storage. You can leverage the smart purge architecture that I talked about, view it with our analytics, and get it down to your gamers as quickly as absolutely possible. So we want to move to the second theme that I mentioned at the top of the presentation, and that's going to be the opportunity to connect gamers to your service. So is this your digital lifeline? We don't really like to think about it, but no one really knows what's going on as we traverse the public internet to get from one point to another. It's going to take one route, it's going to take another route. The fact is that Limelight can tell you exactly the path that your bits are going to take every single time. We do this through a variety of optimizations and a variety of enhancements that we've provided to our private network. The first of which is our first mile optimization. Here we have direct network connectivity to, again, over 800 networks of the world, meaning that your data center, your infrastructure hosting place, is almost guaranteed to be directly connected to the Limelight private backbone. We have our own proprietary patented TCP optimizations as well as the TCP optimizations that are standard. And we do all of those optimizations from a single global ASN, meaning that your network optimizations for interacting with the Limelight network or for delivering connectivity into the Limelight network are very, very easy. I can provide you with the exact list of supernets that Limelight operates from, and you can guarantee that all traffic that originates from or ends up with Limelight networks can be filtered on that basic set of lists as a first step towards protecting your infrastructure from any outside influence. The first mile optimization and the last mile optimization look very similar because we're doing essentially the same thing. We're connecting gamers on one side, origins on the other, through the world's largest internet service providers and eyeball networks of the world. We're doing it with those same TCP optimizations on that side, compression and persistent connections where appropriate to determine the dynamic content and cacheable content that those users need to see. In the middle, we have the world's, again, dedicated media-grade private mesh backbone to make sure that every single connection is happening through a congestion-free environment and is happening in a way that allows users to guarantee the latency from point to point, meaning that they can focus their anger on the competition instead of on your infrastructure. So Limelight's cloud storage. So when Limelight has an individual POP region, our competitors look at storage as being separate from distribution, separate from CDN. Limelight's cloud storage was designed from the ground up with the understanding that storage is as directly linked to distribution as your content distribution network is. And so we don't draw artificial lines between the regions that content needs to appear in, and we don't draw artificial lines between the regions and capabilities of replication between those individual regions. So when you define a policy at Limelight Networks and say, here's my content, I'd like you to keep 3 copies of it, and I'd like you to keep those copies, 1 copy here in Korea, another copy on the west coast of the United States, and then another copy in Europe for me, because I have a globally distributed user base. As soon as you upload that content, we are automatically starting the workflow that begins the replication of that content through all of those points and brings that content into policy, all on the Limelight side with a simple front-side policy definition by your side. There's no additional programming, there's no additional workflow on your side, there is simply upload, and you're done. We utilize that same private backbone for that replication, so you can be assured that once you've uploaded it, it will be moved into policy absolutely as quickly as possible. What this universally accessible cloud storage opportunity can present for us is Limelight's hybrid origin solution. So many customers, many organizations find it difficult to decide, oh, well, this is going to be static content, and I can very easily offload this to a content distribution network for storage, and they can cache that for a long time. And then over here, we have our database, and customers need to interact with the database, or so we have some server-side scripting language that needs to be run against their login, and then it displays some information about them, but some of that information is cacheable, and some of it's not. Finding any organization that has an expertise in defining what those are is difficult, and I can tell you that it probably, if your organization has that, I'll be very surprised, because I work for a CDN and a lot of people don't have it straight. Here's where Limelight's hybrid origin solutions come in. Limelight has the opportunity to define the objects that you want to store in the CDN, the objects that you want to store in cloud storage, and the objects that you'd like to permanently retain on your origin infrastructure, and automatically ingest the content at request time, store it if we should, not store it if we shouldn't, and never even cache it if that's the design of those individual objects. And so you don't have to define, this is my storage, and this is where I keep this stuff, and then I need to delete that, and this is this other version, and then this is my web server, and this is where we code into, and this is my QA policy, this is my staging environment. We can create a single unified instance that can bring together web server, cloud storage, caching infrastructure, and purgeability in an automatically replicated worldwide fashion with essentially no participation on your side. You just need to tell us how your business fits together. And that also allows for worldwide workflow changes where you as my customers can upload content in the United States via API, and a different office at your company can upload content in Asia via FTP, have that in a single library, unified experience that's automatically synchronized and replicated into a single library worldwide. So finally, I want to touch on the importance of security. I promise that I am not responsible for the current ransomware in order to make this part of my presentation valuable right now. A recent Gartner report showed that in 2016, 98% of respondents to their cybersecurity questionnaire responded that they had been at least the victim of an attempted cyber attack during 2016. So based on polling data, plus or minus 2% is easy. 100% of companies that are on the internet have experienced some type of cyber attack. Whether or not it was successful, it is out there and consistent and constant every single day. The primary approach to this situation is on-premise hardware. You're going to filter content, you're going to inspect traffic as it comes to your origin. But what you can see here is that gets to the problem a little bit too late. So legitimate traffic comes into the internet, and also the attack traffic comes into the internet, and it has no way to differentiate itself as it leads to the pipe that feeds into your infrastructure. And that pipe itself still gets filled up with legitimate traffic and attack traffic before it can even be inspected for the first time. And then the on-premise hardware can do a very, very good job, and your infrastructure sees only the clean traffic. But the pipe to return the responses to your users who are doing nothing wrong is still filled. Limelight's DDoS attack interceptor moves this scrubbing much farther away from your infrastructure in order to provide a completely seamless experience for your users during the worst bulk-style traffic attacks. So we have hardware-based detection inside the CDN, inspecting traffic as it's coming in, traffic as it's coming out, looking for the signatures of most bulk traffic attacks. When attack traffic is brought in, smaller attacks can be seamlessly and passively absorbed by the CDN without doing anything. And then, when needed, all traffic can be diverted through to globally distributed scrubbing centers that are going to remove that attack traffic and send only filtered traffic back to your content and origin infrastructure. What you can see then is that none of the good filtered traffic is affected at any point during the network conversation by the attack traffic that's coming in. So that's well and good for bulk traffic that is doing its absolute best to show up on the networks, to make headlines, to make a splashy show. But over 90% of the attacks that are out there are not trying to get caught. They are attempting to exploit some SQL injection, some other type of layer 7 attack, gain access to your user databases, to the personally identifiable information that you may be holding within your systems, and gain access that way and come in, get what they're looking for, and leave without you ever having noticed. Limelight's web application firewall sits directly behind the CDN and in front of your origin infrastructure, again, still hosted in the cloud, so that all dynamic traffic is inspected by this web application firewall and sent before it's sent to your origin infrastructure, so that bot traffic, automated scripting attacks, any other type of non-user behavior that you're looking to filter out can be removed before your infrastructure even has to deal with it. What's important about a combination of these two solutions, the attack interceptor as well as the web application firewall, is that while we are doing some small level of traffic inspection, the combined benefit in reduction of infrastructure usage by handling extraneous requests per second or dealing with any of the traffic that we have mitigates the latency cost of that inspection. And overall, most of our customers find that the response information from their origin infrastructure improves after implementing some additional, the latency of additional inspection. So Limelight's cloud security services function under 5 specific sections. We've already talked about the web application firewall. We've talked about the DDoS attack interceptor. We've talked a little bit about SSL. What I want to talk about when you allow your users to access content that you don't necessarily want them to take with them, or you don't want them to access from some other route except your branded ability. In this case, I'm thinking of marketing materials or trailers where you'd like them to have an experience that's unified under your brand, and you don't want to have the gaming journalism reposting information in a manner that's inconsistent with your brand. So conditional access, we offer geographic fencing of the content that we have. We offer media vault URL tokenization, which is essentially the prevention of deep linking. And then CORS and IP access control for those times where it's useful in your workflow. Additionally, we support encrypted stream delivery, so that's both traditional video delivery as well as virtual reality or 360-degree video delivery is fully supported within our infrastructure, including through transcode and the application of AES or Widevine, PlayReady. To the extent that they support that type of content, Limelight supports the delivery of that content as well. Inside the platform, there are some inherent benefits for security. There's passive DDoS mitigation built directly into the CDN. There's the geofencing. These are features within the cloud security suite of services, protecting your content, protecting your videos, protecting your distribution, and working all of the time to ensure the availability of your website or the availability of your infrastructure, whatever you're using it for. They integrate directly with Limelight's video delivery and other CDN services for benefit. So Limelight has a mission, and that mission is to securely manage and globally deliver digital content. That is what the Limelight Network does. We take digital content from you, and we give it to your end users as quickly as we can every single time. The way we do it is by building our customers' satisfaction through the exceptional reliability and performance. So when we say that we deliver your objects every single time and that we clear the way for communication with your audiences, that is what we provide. Just want to recap slightly some of the things that we've presented a little bit today. Limelight has a global footprint where we're directly connected to almost 1,000 eyeball networks and delivery networks, allowing opportunities for a complete smart purge environment where we're operating against the entire workflow, providing conditional access and dedicated virtual IP addresses. So I mentioned earlier that we operate a single ASN and that we can give you a very short list of the total number of IP addresses assigned to that network, allowing you the opportunity to deliver that content. We can further restrict that list if you need the opportunity to connect with carriers, particularly mobile carriers, where they need to know for sure that the content for your game or the content for your service is coming from your particular set. and not that the traffic is not intermixed in a traditional CDN environment where content is coming from a bunch of different companies over the same set of IP addresses. So we can provide dedicated IP addresses traditionally used for zero-rated traffic into carrier networks, but there are a few other use cases where different delivery partners require a very, very short list. I mean, 20 total IP addresses around the world, and those 20 IP addresses can still serve the 20 terabits of capacity that Limelight has available. Limelight has full support for IPv4, of course, but also for IPv6, if we ever do, in fact, get around to running out of IPv4 addresses, and full support for HTTP2 as you're adding those conversations to web games or other accelerated conversations in the application. Cloud storage services offer automatic replication, which is policy-based on distribution needs throughout the Limelight global network. It offers the industry's most flexible ingest. So I touched on this a little bit, but we offer FTP, rsync, FTP SSL, API upload, Aspera upload, as well as Limelight's patent-pending intelligent ingest for the hybrid origin solution that I referenced. Objects are retrieved from our storage and delivered via HTTP or HTTPS using the exact same infrastructure and the exact same speed. We support REST APIs for almost every interaction that you'll have with the system, whether that's provisioning new services, whether that's gaining analytics from the service, or delivering additional reporting to you as different events on the network happen, or different transcoding events, different workflow notifications, all handled through REST-based APIs. We can automate a lot of your workflow, including transcoding and moving assets into the cloud, moving them from one policy into another based on aging or other types. One of the key pieces, especially as we view the quantum leap when it comes to VR and AR experiences, is that we do have no file size restrictions on the network. So I have customers who are currently storing 200 gigabyte single files. There's no concept of a bucket or something that you have to fill up. We just have a POSIX compliant file system, and the file that just exists. And when you start working with files that are that size, zero time to publish. As soon as you start the upload of a file, the file is available through our network, and a user can see that file and begin downloading that file. If they start a while after you've started the upload, they'll be able to download as fast as their connection will take it from the edge of our network. The only thing that happens when they reach as much as you've downloaded is that we throttle that connection down to the speed at which you're uploading and continue delivering that file seamlessly to that end user. They'll have no idea that you didn't finish uploading before they're done downloading it. All of this is built on the Limelight Network's Orchestrate platform, which is a combination of 5 services that we've brought together on top of that media-grade backbone. Our video delivery services, which are value-added capabilities, including advertising, as well as transcoding and additional monetizations. The cloud storage services that I've touched on many times today with reliable high-performance distribution. Our content delivery services, which is our oldest service in the book. We've been delivering cacheable content nearly as long as there's been video online. Web acceleration services for the dynamic content, for API posts, for essentially any HTTP or HTTPS encapsulated traffic that you have, including API delivery, post. Limelight can accelerate that conversation back to your infrastructure without having to cache it and being able to provide a direct benefit to you, and all secured through content and infrastructure, DDoS protection, web application, firewall protection, and capabilities to protect your assets, even when even when you'd like your audience to have access to that, we can still protect those assets further. So thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate that. If there are any questions, I'll be outside for the next half an hour or so. Stop by, but I really appreciate your time today. 감사합니다.